The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. So welcome to Embedded Analytics webinar with Sigma. We are going to get started in just a couple of moments. I'm going to let everybody file in here. We'll start in earnest once the attendees number levels off. But in the meantime, feel free to familiar yourself with the GoToWebinar interface. You'll see there's a questions tab. That's a great place to be able to ask questions as we go. I'll be in there. I'll be your moderator today. I'll be able to answer any questions on the fly. But just going to give it a couple more moments as people join. All right, looks about 2 minutes after the hour. Amount of attendees is at about 40. We're settling in here. So yeah, I think it's time to get started. So thank you everybody for taking time today to join this webinar on embedded analytics with Sigma. First, for introductions, my name is Zack Norton. I'm a technical product marketing manager at Sigma. I'm going to be your moderator today. I'll be able to answer any questions that you have throughout the presentation in the GoToWebinar questions tab. I am joined by Jon Avrach, who is the Senior Director of Solution Architecture and Evangelism at Sigma. Jon knows just about all things embedding and Sigma, so this is going to be a very informative session. And the good news is that it will be recorded. So if you get up to grab a bite to eat or a bio break, don't worry, you can ask me questions in the questions tab, and we're also going to follow up with a recording that will be sent your email, and it will also be available on demand on our website, sigmacomputing.com. So to get things started, I'm going to issue a poll, and what we want to first find out is on the topic of embedding, are you more interested in embedding internally, so for your own company, maybe within Salesforce, or are you looking to explore possibilities of embedding externally for your customers? Feel free to say not sure, just wanted to find more about Sigma's capability. The votes are coming in pretty quickly here. It's going to give everybody a chance to find the poll interface, and I'll be able to close it in just a second. All right, I'm going to close that poll and I'll share the results. And it looks like most folks are going to be embedding internally, quite a few externally, some not sure. That's fine, because frankly, a lot of the concepts that we'll walk through today for embedding apply both internally and externally. We embed via iframe for both. And we also do find oftentimes customers will begin with Sigma. They might begin with an internal use case like Salesforce, an internal company portal, and then they'll start thinking about, all right, how do we put this more externally for customer facing? So you can see here are the results for the polling in this session today. So you have an idea of some of the other folks on the line that are going to be in the questions panel along with myself. So again, this will be recorded. We're going to step right into the agenda now.
Excellent.
And here is a bit about what Jon's going to walk you through. Jon, you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Zack, for kicking that off. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time this morning to join us for this hour. Zack mentioned this is going to be action-packed. We have a lot of good material on what's going on with embedded analytics and how Sigma can help with that. So just a brief background on myself here. I've been in the data and analytics space for over 20 years, and I've been at Sigma for a little over 2.5 years. And about 2 years ago, Sigma started on our journey offering up the ability to embed Sigma into to customer portals and to embed it internally. So we started this about 2 years ago, and since then we've gotten a lot of interest from customers in our embedded product, particularly around the idea of fast time to value, being able to embed really quickly, being able to do it securely, being able to do it live against your warehouse and have scale, and most importantly, and we'll see this in our demonstration today, the ability to explore the data in an embedded environment, actually create your own kind of experience. So this is what we're going to talk about today, is really like, what is embedding, how is it used, why is Sigma different for embedding. We'll do a little bit of a deep dive. We'll start off kind of more at the use case and business level, and as we progress through the agenda, we'll get into some of the more technical details. So whether you're a technical or non-technical person, this is going to appeal to all audiences. Definitely stick around towards the second half, because we are going to do a very rich demo of what Sigma looks like in a sample customer portal. As Zach mentioned, if you have questions along the way, please put them in the GoToWebinar chat panel there. So let's dive on in. So if you're brand new to embedding, not a problem. We're going to do a complete level set here. So what is embedding? What is Sigma embedding? And the best way to think about this is it lets you take the entire experience of Sigma, what I call the Sigma experience, and allow that to put that into either an internal embedded environment, could be something like Salesforce, or to embed it onto like a customer-facing application or customer portal. So we'll figure out, we'll as we go along, we'll explain what that Sigma experience means. So some of the core motivations or features of Sigma embedding is Sigma embedding is designed so that it's quick to develop. This means that you're not going to spend a lot of time to develop like a dashboard, for example, that you want to embed somewhere else. So fast time to value is a key concept here. Security, we're going to talk a lot about security today. Security means a lot of different things. It means how do you log into the system? It means what data do you see? And we'll go into this. We can handle single tenant, multi-tenant. Your data may be secured already in your database. We have a lot of different security models which we've worked with customers on. So we'll take a look at how we address all those. So it's quick to develop. We have a lot of different ways we can secure it, and we can integrate in with the existing authentication. And this is what it means to be application embedding, because whether it's internal embedding, like through something like Salesforce, or whether you're embedding externally in a customer-facing portal, you already have people logging in to these places. You have people logging into your customer-facing application, for example. Maybe they're logging into Salesforce through single sign-on. You want this Sigma embedding to be able to work seamlessly without authentication. And the way we do the embedding is such that it doesn't matter what your authentication mechanism is. So it's a very clever mechanism that we're using to do embedded URL signing. So we'll take a look at what that is. But it integrates seamlessly with whatever authentication you're using right now. And then finally, you can dial in the experience. You may want to do curated dashboards embedded, or you may want people to be able to download data, upload data, do their own analysis, like upload a CSV file and join it into the rest of their analysis. They may want to drill down, look at detailed data. They may want to create their own calculations. Whatever it is, if you have novice end users that just want curated dashboards, or whether you have power users, you can adjust the experience for different users that are logging in. So a lot of flexibility here. So why even embed at all? And some of these points here are a little bit more for external use cases, but they apply also to internal. So first is the status quo. Is basically other people are doing it. Other companies are embedding. So in order to stay competitive, you need to offer up analytics to your customers. They kind of expect this today. So you need some level of analytics just to stay up with it. Going beyond status quo, you can actually have an additional revenue stream here. So you may have different offerings. Some of our customers will have Sigma embedded, and they'll have a base level offering, which kind of comes with just being a customer. But they also may say, you know, if you want to pay extra each month, we'll give you some of these premium analytics options. So you can have like a bronze, silver, gold package, for example. And then we have some features which lets you dial in which kind of capabilities you can give to them. So this helps you differentiate and also gives you potentially some additional revenue there. And then the final one is on differentiation. Is if you're embedding for your customers, you're going to want to be able to say, hey, we're better than our competition because we have better analytics on our site. We can extend your analytics offering. So a lot of good reasons to embed. So we've established the case for embedding, but why use Sigma for embedding versus other products? So 3 key tenets here. One is that it's quick and easy. We have a lot of customers that are able to get up and running in a couple of days. Now, this is going to vary based on your data model, but we've seen it. I've seen it done before. I think the record that I've seen of all the customers in a proof of concept was a half day to get an account on Sigma, pointed to their connection. They happened to be using Snowflake. They developed a dashboard in Sigma, which we call Workbook, and they embedded it onto a test application in just a few hours. So it's very quick to do this. Second is we have all the security aspects integrating with your existing authentication, row-level security, no matter what it looks like, and we can handle the scale. So we have a unique model of push-down compute. Sigma will generate all the queries on the fly and push it down to the cloud warehouse, whether that's Snowflake or Postgres, BigQuery, Redshift, Databricks, doesn't matter. We can leverage the power of that back end. And the final one is that ability to dial in the experience. So you may want people just to have dashboards. That's totally fine. Maybe you just want them to be able to do some simple filters, just look at some charts. Or you may want to have them do a full-blown experience where they can drill down, create their own analytics. So you can customize this experience. So Sigma offers all these things out of the box. And again, we're 100% SaaS. There's no downloadable client with Sigma. You go to our site, you can sign up for a free trial, and you're up and running in about 30 seconds. You can connect to your data and see for yourself. So let's take a look at some use cases. We'll look at one external and then one internal. So the external one, an example would be you might use Sigma to embed it into a supplier portal. Maybe you're a retail company. This is actually the basis for the demonstration that we'll see today. Maybe you're a retail company and you have suppliers and you want to offer up a customer portal to them where they can view orders and payments. They can view their transaction history. They can look at buying patterns. And the end users might be suppliers that are logging in. You may have dozens of suppliers, and at each one of those suppliers, there may be 10 users, more, it doesn't really matter, but we have the security to handle all of this there. So what are the benefits of this? Well, all of it's live data. So when they get in there and they're looking at the dashboards, it's all live. If they want to drill down because it's live, we can allow the drill down to happen. You can filter anywhere. You can do whatever you want here. So you have full drill and explore. And this gives you just a lot of visibility over your data. Here's an example of an internal use case. And we're doing this here at Sigma. So like many customers, like many companies, we use Salesforce here to manage our sales operations. And one of the requests that a lot of our sales team made, particularly like the account executives, is they said, well, we have a subscription business, and we need to be able to keep track of our customers' product usage. And we have lots of product usage data because it's a SaaS product. So what we did was we made it easy for those account executives. Even our CRO can go into Salesforce, look at one of the accounts in there. Here in this screenshot here, the account would be called Paper Crane. And we added a tab to the account page in Salesforce, a little Salesforce customization, where we put in an iframe to securely embed the product usage data for the customer we're looking at. So all the sales rep has to do is go into Salesforce, look at their account, and they're already doing this every day, and they can see how that account is using Sigma. They can see how many users are on there, what's their usage trend look like, how many licenses they've bought, how many of those licenses are active, is there an upsell opportunity, is there a churn risk, who are the top users? So many companies fall into this bucket. That is, a lot of companies collect usage data about how their customers are using their product. A lot of companies have Salesforce. So this is a solution which can be very readily integrated into your Salesforce environment. This makes things easier for account executives and can actually lead to real outcomes like upsells. So let's dig in a little bit deeper to these embedded experiences that I've been talking about. So this is a spectrum. I'm going to show you 3 options here, from the simplest to the more power user, but by no means does it have to be these 3. It can be any combination of these things. And the examples you see here are just some of the things we can do. So at the simplest end of the spectrum, the most common kind of embedding is curated dashboards. This has been around for a long time. Sigma does really well at this because we have good visualizations, we have live query, we have good performance. You can get up and running really quickly. So you can make the dashboard, you can put it in there, you can have some canned filters. Sigma really excels at this, but you can do a lot more with Sigma. So I would call this the highly curated use case. If you have users that are a little bit more curious, maybe you even want to sell this as a premium option. Maybe you can think of this as bronze, silver, gold, going left to right. You could offer up an option called Viewer Plus. This is just a name that I made up, but you could offer up more experiences like Drill Anywhere. So not just a static dashboard, but now you can drill down on a bar chart, take a different slice of it. I'll show you this to you in the demo today. You can give them the ability to get to the underlying data, like the transactional data. Sometimes you see a chart, but you want to see the data that's behind that chart. How did that chart get to be like the way it is? Maybe you want to download the data, take it offline, move it to another tool. That does happen, so we allow that experience as well. You may want them to be able to open up other documents that are shared with them. This is one of the things that's unique about the Sigma experience, is that you're not just limited to the embed that you see when you first go to a page. You can open up other dashboards or other, we call them workbooks. You can open up other workbooks from the experience. You'll see what this looks like in the demo today. This really opens up the possibility of what you can do through an embed. And then finally, the premium option, the I'll take it all, is the full Sigma experience. This is what I call the Explorer option here. And this is just a list of some of the features you can do, but you can drill anywhere, you can modify charts, you can add net new charts, you can create your own line charts, bar charts, put your own calculations. We have a full formula builder in the UI. It works a lot like Excel or Google Sheets, but it's working live against your data. If you wanted to, you could let people upload a CSV file from their laptop and put it into that embedded dashboard, and then join it into the data and do further analysis on there. This is an incredibly powerful experience. They can save their dashboards. They can share them with other people. They can do scheduling. I want to get this dashboard on Slack or in my email every Monday morning. You can also do alerting. If the revenue goes up by a certain amount in the last 7 days, alert me, send me a Slack or schedule, all through embedding, if you want to allow that experience. And you can monetize this kind of experience. You don't have to give it away for free. So that is what I call the full Sigma experience embedded. And the way you dial this in is using a feature in Sigma called account types, which are kind of like roles. So let's look at what account types are. So this is a screenshot from our administrative interface. And if you were to create a new role, you have all these different features you can check the box for. You'll see there's one for export there, there's ones for sharing, editing, exploring, downloading, uploading, and so on. So you can create as many roles as you'd like, or many account types as you'd like, and you can dynamically determine what kind of experience they have. Your application determines this on the fly. So this is very easy to change at runtime. So in terms of what can be embedded, there are 3 different things in Sigma that you can embed. So the most common one is people think about a dashboard. That's the most common use case we see. That's the second one there, called a single page. The way you build analytics in Sigma is you build this thing called a workbook. It's kind of modeled loosely after like an Excel workbook. You imagine an Excel workbook, you have multiple tabs at the bottom. We call those pages. So you could embed a single page, which is a dashboard. You can embed the entire workbook, which would be multiple tabs. Or you can embed an individual visualization, which could be as simple as a line chart or a KPI. So you can choose which one of those to embed, and you can mix and match these. So here's an example of a customer-facing portal where we have 2 of those 3 types there. We'll show you all 3 types in the demo today. But at the top, we have these 4 tiles for orders, revenue, customers, and products up top. There's actually 8 different embeds because we have the number being embedded, like the 805,000, and we have the line chart being embedded. And then on the far right side of the screen, we have a single page embed. Think of this like a dashboard embed. So those are 2 different of the grains that you can embed. Some of the other data that's on the screen is just part of the application. They're not even embed. So you can really mix and match this to make it look like whatever you want. So we're going to go a little bit deeper now into some of the mechanics about how the embedding works, how the security works. And then what we'll jump into a demonstration. That's where this thing will really come to life. So one of the great things about embedding, we talked about how it's quick to get up and running. Well, here's the technical part about how you embed. It's an iframe. And iframes are great for embedding. A lot of people use them. And the reason why they're great is because they're very quick to embed. And it's also very secure to embed because the URL that you're putting here is a signed URL. And we'll go into a bit of depth about what that process means. And this is a lot like embedding on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you have a video, you click on the embed link, they'll give you a piece of HTML code that looks a lot like this. The main difference between YouTube and this is that our URL has to be signed because that's how we're handling the authentication. And what this means is that it's quick to get up and running. Doesn't take a lot of time from your developers. You can get that full Sigma experience with just one link right here. And it's kind of a do it once kind of thing. You don't have to maintain it afterwards. Even as you have new versions of that dashboard, this code doesn't change. So we've designed this to be easy to get up and running and to have low maintenance. Now, we're going to go into some depth about security. So we will get a little bit technical here, but I think it's important to understand that the security, how it works, and the fact that it is going to be secure. Whether you're embedding internally into Salesforce or whether you're embedding externally to a customer-facing portal, you have similar kinds of issues. So the first thing is about authentication. So I showed you an example of the Salesforce embed. Typically, people log into Salesforce using some kind of single sign-on, might be Active Directory or Okta. And when you get that embed of Sigma inside Salesforce, you don't want to have to log in again. The login should happen seamlessly. And application embedding allows this. It works with any existing authentication scheme. We do not care what it is. And the reason why we're able to do this is because we have a secret key, or you'll generate a secret key inside Sigma, which is just your key. And you put that in a safe place. If you're using, for example, AWS, you may use their key management service. And then that secret key is used in an API, which you'll build in your backend. I'll show you a sample piece of code. It's not that long. And that secret key will sign the URL. And this signing process happens every single time that you want to show one of those iframes in there. So like that screenshot I showed you had a whole bunch of embeds. We signed the URL for each one of those embeds. And this establishes that trust relationship. And we'll go into a little bit more depth here. So now let's shift gears a little bit. That was authentication. Now what I want to talk about is the security of the data. So when it comes to embedding, one of the unique things about embedding is that you are taking something like a dashboard, putting it into a portal or an internal application, and then based on who's logged in, like in the Salesforce example, different people, different AEs are logging in. Maybe they should only see their own accounts. Or in the portal example, different suppliers are logging in. They should only see their territories, so they should only see their stores where they're supplying to. So this is the aspect of row-level security. And row-level security takes on all different shapes and forms. I've worked with a lot of customers over the last 2 years. I have all different kinds of schemes here. And the good news is that because we've been doing this for a while, we have figured out how to apply security in all these environments. So let's go through this. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Sigma logo on the left and database icon at the right. What this means is you may have row-level security implemented in your warehouse. Let's say you're using Snowflake. You may have used role-based access control to set up row-level security or column-level security. Or maybe you haven't gotten there yet, or maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to do all the security inside Sigma. That's okay too. We can cater towards both these environments. Now your data model, it may look different than other customers' data models. Some data models are multi-tenant, which means that all of your data is sitting in a common schema. You may have a column like customer ID, which determines security. So we call it a multi-tenant model. Contrast that with a single tenant model, which says that different customers' data, if you take the portal example, will sit in different databases or different schemas. So basically the identical schema, but sitting in different databases. So it's a single tenant model. So we can handle all 4 of these scenarios, whether the security is done in Sigma, or it's done in your database, or it's multi-tenant, or it's single tenant. So how do we do this? Well, the simple answer is we have a feature called user attributes, which allows us to do all of this. And user attributes allows us to associate like arbitrary metadata with a user or a group of users. And in the case of a multi-tenant model, where all the data is sitting, all your customers' data is sitting in a common schema with like a customer ID filter, if you want to implement that rule in Sigma, we can use user attributes and we can do filters and what we call data sets. Data sets are basically kind of like a view on top of data. It's a way to do some simple modeling. If you have a single tenant model, which means that based on who's logged in to your application, you may have to query one database or another database. So this is a complex thing in BI tools. And we handle this also with user attributes by doing SQL rewrites. So if you think in SQL terms, you might select data from one database or select it from a different database based on who's logged in. And we can do that using user attributes again. And then in the final scenario, and we see this a lot with our enterprise customers especially, is they will have elaborate security models already set up in the warehouse. I'm going to use Snowflake as an example because they have really nice role-based access control. You may have column level and row level security. You've gone through a lot of work to implement that in your warehouse. You're using it with lots of different applications. You want to take Sigma, embed it, and leverage all that work you already did. So not a problem. We do that through a feature called dynamic roles. So what this means is using user attributes, we take the connection to, I'll use Snowflake again as the example, and on the fly, based on who's logged into the portal, and we pass this in through the URL in a secure way, we can swap the Snowflake role to a different user on the fly, and therefore leverage the security that's already sitting in Snowflake. So we've got the data security side nailed here, not a problem. So now let's look at that URL in a little bit more depth. So this is that iframe URL that I showed in the previous screen. We're just kind of putting the magnifying glass on it now. It may look complicated, but this is all there is to the embed. And we're going to go through some of the key elements here. You'll see there's an email address, which you put into the URL. This lets us know who is using the embed. We can use this to do things like persist the state. Like if people need to do create their own dashboards, or they want to set up schedules or alerts, we use that email to store their information on our back end. That's how we know who's doing it. You'll see the ID of the embed. That's because we can embed different visualizations or dashboards on the page. We need to know what it is that we're embedding. And then we see that user attribute down there at the bottom. And this is what we would use for row level security. Any one of those 4 methods will use our row level security scheme similar to this. So the URL goes into this iframe source. Whatever the row level security scheme is, we'll pass it in using a user attribute. It may be a filter or it may be a role name, whatever it is, we pass it in there. And then this URL gets generated on your back end. It's part of your application, so it's secure. And you use that secret key to sign it. You'll see there's a signature at the very end there. So that signature is produced by your application. And a lot of people say, well, hey, you're just passing this stuff in clear text. Can't I just change the URL and get access to someone else's account, or change the security and see other regions I shouldn't see? The answer is no, because this URL cannot be used more than once and it cannot be modified. The only thing that can generate this URL is your application, because you have to have a secret key. That's why the secret key is secret here. So this URL is said to be immutable, which means it can't be changed, and it can only be used one time. So I kind of belabor this point a little bit, because this is really the crux of how the security model works. It's all through this URL. But because the URL is completely safe and can't be modified, that makes it safe to pass in things like the row level security in the URL. And the way that signature is done is using this secret key. We have a lot of different support for secret keys inside Sigma. There's this notion of an org master key. It's like one key for the entire org. And then you can also have keys for individual users. And this is good for like developers, or if you want to do key rotation as people leave the organization, you don't want to have their secrets go with them. So you can manage that through the APIs and embed secrets UI here. This is from our admin interface. And again, the admin interface, just like everything in Sigma, it's all SaaS based. So there's no tool you have to download. And that secret key is used to produce that signature, and your backend will do this. Okay, so we are getting close to the demo here. Zach, let me just do a checkpoint with you here. Do we want to do the second poll at this point?
Yeah, let's open up a poll. I'll let you get sorted and ready for the demonstration here. So I'm going to launch a poll. This is quick. Do you have a customer-facing application today? So feel free to answer yes, no, or not sure. And while this is open, I can address a few of the questions that came in during the session so far. And again, a reminder, we're going to share a recording afterwards. So if you joined late, you'll be able to review everything, pause it, dive into the slides, and then also check out this really cool demo that's coming up in a second. So I'm going to wrap up this poll in a moment. One of the other questions, though, that came in through the chat was, do we support Azure, other clouds? And yes, we support Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. So if you have a cloud data warehouse deployed on either of the three, we can and do already have customers that we can connect to on those different cloud deployments. But that is one thing, you do have to have your data in the cloud. We connect to cloud data warehouses because we love the scalability and elasticity of CDWs. So if you need any help getting your data to the cloud, feel free to reach out to us. We can advise best practices for ETL tools, the entire cloud modern data stack. And yeah, seeing here, we have results for our poll. Looks like quite a few people do already have customer-facing applications today. So this is a hot topic for how we can quickly enhance them with Sigma, how fast we can provide time to value with our embedded functionality.
Great, thank you, Zach, and thank you everyone for sticking around to this point. I think now we're going to get into the really exciting stuff, the demonstration. So it's great to see that a lot of people have customer-facing portals today. So you may or may not have analytics in there, or maybe you have some proprietary stuff that you've made. A lot of the customers I talk to we'll start off the journey pretty simple, maybe using something even like D3 or visualization package to show some analytics. But then as you evolve over time, you get demands from your customers want more flexibility, you have your data volumes are increasing, your security gets more complex over time. So this is the natural evolution cycle of embedded analytics. So Sigma is a really good fit for all those things. So I'm going to do a demo. Let me just explain what you're going to see, and then I'll show it to you. This is an external use case. So imagine a fictitious electronics retailer called Plugs Electronics. And this retailer has a whole bunch of suppliers, and their suppliers have demanded data from the electronics store. They want to know what's going on with all the different parts and items and SKUs that they're supplying. So the suppliers want to log into this portal and get analytics to see which products are selling well in their region. So this has aspects of authentication, row-level security, and data exploration to it. So the suppliers can log in, they can see order and payment history, they can view canned dashboards, they'll be able to explore the data and even create and share their analysis. So that's what we're gonna show right here. So I will swap over to my demo screen. Here is our supplier portal, and it starts off with logging into the portal. And for the demonstration, we're going to simulate two different suppliers that can log in. The first supplier is called Acme, and the second supplier is called, very cleverly, Mr. Supply. And from Acme, we've got 3 different users, Alfonso and Franklin and Sophie. And then from Mr. Supply, we've got Ali and Brendan. So these are our cast for today's demo. What you can't tell here is that some of these users have different privileges. For example, Sophie is a viewer privilege. Remember those different experiences we had? Well, she can only view stuff. She's not able to save anything. And Brendan has some limited rights as well. It's kind of what we call an Explorer Lite. So he can do a little bit more, but not that much there. So Alfonso's our first user here. So we're just going to log into the Plugs Electronics portal today. So this is what the supplier would see. They log in. You can see a few things that are loading right there. And the first thing I'll point out is we've got these recent orders here. Just zoom in here, you can see different customers. These are order transactions. Now this part of the screen, the recent orders, is actually not coming from Sigma. This is one of the few things not coming from Sigma that's on the screen right now. This will be part of your application. And imagine this is hooked directly into your transactions, like your transactional systems. They can see all the orders and they can click on these names. So here I'm gonna click on, let's say Nick Holmes here is one of our customers who had an order for a certain amount. You can see the item they actually bought. So these are all the individual orders. And when I click on Nick Holmes here, what I want you to focus in is on the right-hand side. You'll see this profit snapshot. Right now it's showing Lucy's name. But when I click on Nick, it's gonna change the snapshot on the right. So what's happening here is this profit snapshot pane is an embedded page. So remember those 3 different methods of embedding we saw, the individual viz, the whole page was kind of like a dashboard, and then the whole workbook, which can have multiple pages. So this is that dashboard option, a single page option. And what we're doing here is every time I click on one of these customers from the recent orders on the left, like here I'll click on Julius, we are using a JavaScript API that Sigma offers, which is, it's called post message. We use the post message JavaScript function, and it will take that customer and pass it in as a filter on the right-hand side to the Sigma workbook. So this allows me to integrate my transactional system on the left. Again, this one on the left is not coming from Sigma, but I can integrate it with the workbook on the right coming from Sigma. So I can kind of do these deep dives for different customers just by clicking on their name, and it will instantly change the filter on the right. So this is a nice way of showing the interaction between your application and Sigma. Now on the right, this is built in Sigma. This is a workbook, and this one this workbook is quick to build. I'm not going to do a full demonstration of Sigma today, but you can build this in maybe about 30 to 40 minutes once you're kind of up to speed with Sigma here. And what it's showing here is a profit trend over time for this one customer. So we clicked on Nick Holmes, it's doing a filter there. It's showing the most profitable products based on this customer's buying history. And then it's showing what percent of the total profit this customer makes up out of all my customers. So, you know, the customer contribution is going to be small versus all customers. The total profit I've made off this customer, I've made $388,000, not bad. And this is all applying row level security. So it may not be obvious here, but I'll show you an example in a few minutes where the row level security will be more obvious. But row level security is being applied throughout this process. So based on who I'm logged in as, in this case, I'm logged in as Alfonso from Acme, that's my supplier, and I'm only seeing the data that I'm allowed to see here. This is using user attribute security. And I want to call out this customer rank here, 59 customer rank. This one here is a global ranking, how this customer is performing versus all customers across all suppliers. Now, this is interesting because I just said that everything here is using row level security, but we have the option in Sigma to, if we want to, we can design this to, in some cases, we may want to bypass row level security for the purpose of doing these benchmarking use cases. These are really valuable because as a retailer, Plugs Electronics, we have many suppliers. And although we can't show information from other suppliers, we can't show Mr. Supply's data to Acme, but what we can do is we can give some relative information. How are they doing versus the overall trend? As long as we don't give away information from their supplier, this is still secure to do. So we can get that customer ranking here. And behind the scenes, the workbook is designed to go off of two different tables, one with row level security, one without it, but we don't expose any of the underlying data. That's what I call a benchmarking use case there. And this whole dashboard here on the right is driven by these URLs. So we went into a little bit of depth in the presentation about these iframe URLs. And in the demo here, we have it wired up so you can see what the URL looks like. And I'll just point out a couple of the key parts here. Here's where the row level security is happening, the west and southwest. Those are the regions for the supplier. So the application knows that, it passes it into Sigma. And then we also have that signature there. And if I were to reload this page, the signature would change. And if I were to try to copy this URL and modify it or send it to someone, it's not going to work. It's a one-time use URL. And the same goes with all these visualizations at the top. So we have this orders panel, this metric up here with a week over week comparison indicator. This is being computed using Sigma. This data for the demo is coming live out of Snowflake. We have trends over here, and they go on and on. There's actually 8 different embeds that are happening over here, and we can look at the URLs for each one of these. This is the URL for the single value summary over here, and then this is the URL for the line chart that's over here. They all have different signatures, and if I reload the page, those signatures will change again. So we're constantly applying row level security and authentication security throughout this process here. So let's go a little bit deeper. We're covering some of those Sigma experiences here. So this menu up top lets me do other kinds of analytics. And depending on who's logged in, we can offer up different menu options here. So let's say that there's a power user that's logged in, this user Alfonso, and now we can look at his order KPIs. So this is an example of the third kind of embed. This is an entire workbook that's embedded. And if you look down here in the very bottom, you'll see there's 2 different pages. We'll get to that. We'll get to that year over year page in a second. I know everyone likes to see year over year, month over month metrics. So we got something special over there. So this is an embedded workbook. Row level security is being applied here. We've got spend per customer over here on the map. And on the right, we've got the monthly order growth. And you'll see the states here on the west and the southwest. And this is because of the user that I'm logged in as. Now I'm going to take a quick diversion to show you the row level security. I'm going to open up a second window, and this time I'm going to log in as Ali, who's part of Mr. Supply. And when Ali logs in, he sees different recent orders. Everything's different. The visualizations are the same, but the data is completely different. So it's all being driven with that row level security. But the rank is still using across, it's a benchmarking use case, so it's looking across both suppliers here. And Ali's also a power user. He can go into this, this workbook here, and I'm going to put these side by side a little bit here. And what you're going to see are, I think this is why we include the maps on here, because the maps really help drive us home. So anyone who's logging in with Mr. Supply, which is that second supplier, they're going to see like the eastern part of the country. And then anyone who's logging in from Acme, the other supplier, is going to see the western part of the country. So this is a very coarse example of row level security. And you can also see the metrics are different, like the number of orders is different. In the case of Acme, the orders yesterday, they're up day over day from the previous day. And here on the left, they're down over there. And this is not a static dashboard here. So what we can do here is start to explore the data. So we've got chart interactions. We can click on California. We can see California's spend per customer is $20,000. And as I click around here, you see all the charts will change, and including the one on the lower right, which is showing my order volume and my month-over-month growth. So we can see all these different trends. And we also have access to the underlying data. It's down here, I've got these top selling products. If I wanted to take a further look there, I can see that. And here, the first one, I can see this is a certain class of 74.5-inch monitor here. And you can see this revenue of $2,800 or $2.8 million, same thing as the bar up here. And I can see all the underlying data. So I can see every single order history here. This is what I was saying that in the slides earlier, that we can get down to the underlying data at all times if we want to allow this experience. Now, if I logged in as a different user, let's say I log in as Sophie here, and Sophie doesn't have the same level of privileges. You know, maybe we didn't get her the premium license, so you can still see the dashboard here. But if she were to expand this, she only sees the aggregate level data. So this is a different kind of experience we've created for her. So on the right, we've got Alfonso. He's got a full license. He can see the underlying transactions. Sophie can only see the aggregated data. So we control this using those account types there. So let's customize this a little bit. Let's say I'm interested in New Mexico. New Mexico's got a low spend per customer. We can see our top selling products there. Let's do a further deep dive into this. Because we have full explore rights here, we can add a filter. We can filter on anything here. We've got a full business intelligence interface here. We can filter just on New Mexico and see our top selling products, because New Mexico is one of the things that's interesting here because of its low spend per customer. And we could even drill down further. Maybe we want to see it by different stores, let's say. So we've got 2 different stores that are selling it there. Let's just go back there. We'll keep this one at New Mexico. And then what we can do is we can save this. You see here in the lower right, you'll see there's a Save As button that's based on the privileges that I have. So I can take that drill down I just did, and I can save this. I can put it in my personal documents, but I've also created we would call a workspace. This is a way of sharing documents. So I can create a new document here, and we'll call this New Mexico. orders and save it. And this is a shared workspace. So what this means is that if I log in now as another user, let's say Franklin, who's also part of the same supplier, Acme, and I go into my KPIs, applying row level security, just like before, and we have this menu down here where we can open up other documents. So we can go in here and we can open up the New Mexico orders, which Alfonso just created a second ago. And let's just make this a little bit more interesting. We'll go in here and we'll add some text here. We'll call this New Mexico orders. Just give it a nice title here. This is all part of the Sigma. Now we're in the Sigma Workbooks interface here, so we can add charts. See over here on the left, we can add tables, charts, visualizations, pivot tables. We could spend hours just showing you what's possible to add here. We're just going to add this text here, publish this, and then I come back over here to my user Franklin, and I go back in to my workspaces and open up New Mexico orders. I'll now see the change I just made a second ago about Alfonso. So this is all live. It's all coming out of Sigma. It's all SaaS-based. Nothing you have to do there. And we're getting close to running out of time here, but I will show you that we've got even more advanced functionality with pivot tables, all kinds of analysis. You can interact with these pivot tables if you want to drill down, see this by product type. You can drill, it'll recalculate everything over there. If you have a particular cell that you're interested in here, you see some of this color coding. Maybe you're interested in this year-over-year growth of 102%. You want to say, I want to see the transactions for that one cell, that 102%. You can right-click and say, show underlying data. There's 102% for Southwest for that store, and then we can see all the transactions down here. So you always have access to the lowest level of data. You can always drill down on the data if that's the experience that you want to allow. This is all coming live out of, in this example, coming live from Snowflake. So as the data gets updated there, this embedded experience will also be updated as well. So with that, just got a few minutes left here, so we're gonna move towards wrapping up. A quick note on documentation. If you are interested in the functionality you saw today, if you're a little more technically inclined and you want to see some of the plumbing behind the scenes, all of our documentation is on help.sigmacomputing.com. You go there, type in application embedding. You will see all the doc about how to create this yourself. You can get a free trial. You can go to this application embedding. You can create the exact experience I just showed you all by yourself using the free trial and using the documentation. You'll see things in there, for example, events and actions, some of the hooks. This post message actions, the one you saw in the demo today, when you clicked on one of those customer names and updated the workbook on the right, that was an example of the post message. And we also have sample code in there where you can see how we're doing the URL signing. It kind of takes the mystery out of it there. So the sample code is quite short there. It's Node.js example code, but you don't have to use Node.js. You can use any language out there. So Zach, I'm going to toss it back over to you here for our Q&A and the upcoming events that we have going on here.
All right, great. Well, I'm going to launch one last poll. Just curious if anybody on the line is already currently embedding with the BI tool. I'm going to let that come in. And while we allow folks to vote, so I want to say, John, that was a very robust demonstration. I really like the stack ranking use case. I've seen that come up myself within financial technology, where people want to see where their portfolios have moved up and down versus industry standards. So that's a great use case, as well as that ability to almost save state or persist the changes for those clients that they've made. Like they've gone through the work of drilling further into analysis and finding that insight, but then they want to be able to return to it every time. I think we're very differentiated in the fact that we can persist those changes and even do it when, let's say there was semi-structured data like JSON, and then the customer parsed it the way that they wanted to look at it and add their custom calculation. Those are all great places where we're really unique in being able to provide that functionality. So for folks that are already embedding with the BI tool, we would like to find out what tool, how we can also help complement that existing investment. And if you're not net new, that's great. I encourage you to reach out to your Sigma account exec if you wanted to find out more about licensing. Our solution engineers love talking about this topic, building out custom enablement for it. And even for next steps, John, if you go to the next slide, I think we have upcoming webinars.
There we go.
All right, so we have our virtual hands-on lab. That's a great way to get familiar with pretty much building a dashboard or a workbook page that John was embedding. So you'll log in, you'll be able to get into a actual free trial, and we'll walk you through how to begin with the data, how to make the connection, how to start with actual Sigma data, and then build out an example that you could then, about maybe 3 or 4 clicks, get an embed URL to be able to share externally or internally. Furthermore, we have a customer webinar series, Groundswell, another client of ours. They were creating reports for the customers. Used to take 2 to 3 weeks. Now it takes 2 to 3 days with Sigma. That's a great session to attend, as well as we have a thought leadership series launch. There's also a Snowflake World Tour that we'll be participating in, so might see you out there in the field. And I think finally, yeah, wrap up just before the hour. You'll get the recording of this session. And for documentation, if you actually visit our website, sigmacomputing.com, there are plenty of resources on the site, and you can also reach out to us. My email is zach@sigmacomputing.com. If there's anything that you want a specific resource for that you're looking for, I can help you navigate that.
And we also have the What's New webinar on October 6th with the 2 of us. We'll be back on.
We'll get the gang back together. A lot of cool new features.
Great. So I think with that, we are all done. So thank you everyone for attending and giving me the privilege of being able to share with you about what Sigma can do for embedding. So have a good day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.